daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by this evening for our Ukraine War Report for day 147. Again, a number that is very capable of reminding us just how long this war has been dragging on. Too long, many would argue. Current date is July 20th of 2022. It's now the 21st in Ukraine. So with that, I could say hello and good morning to Ukraine and everybody in Europe. Good evening to everybody in the Western Hemisphere. It's about 7:50 p.m. We're starting about 10 minutes earlier than we normally do at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got some big headlines to cover this evening. We're going to get everybody caught up on what's been going on in Ukraine over the past 12 to 24 hours. Again, we'll start the evening with our primary headlines and go through our key topics. And then, of course, after that, we'll hop over into our community aggregated reporting from the Discord server, from our intel analysts over on the Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. There's an invite link to that in the description below. And then, of course, after our community aggregated reports, we'll hop over into our open source reporting from resources like LiveUA Map, amongst others. And then we'll end off the show as we usually do with a little bit of a Q&A from the live chats over on YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. Speaking of the live chats, we are running our nightly community poll over in the YouTube live chat. Tonight's poll question is, do you think Russia's expanded war aims will be successful? Of course, referring to tonight's primary headline, which is that Russia has announced that it is expanding its war aims in Ukraine, not just within the east in the Donbass, but they're now expanding their goals beyond the territory in the east. So make sure you go head over to our YouTube live chat to submit your vote in that poll, and then when we hop over into our community aggregated reporting, we'll end that poll, and we will talk a little bit about the results. Before we get into our main headline topics, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention. You got to really poke and prod it. Sometimes you even have to send a little javelin or an NLAW over there to really get that like button's attention. If you like this stream, if you like this content, and you think it's valuable to more people, best way to get this information out there is to, of course, share this stream with your friends if you wish to do so. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Best way to get notified when new streams or videos go live, as well as it's the only way to join us in our YouTube live chat. If you're following along on Twitch, thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight on Twitch. Great to have it's nice to have you. Great to see you. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that follow button. Best way to get notified when our new Twitch streams go live. Big shout out tonight to Michelle Welch, Catlin Berg, Kender, Little Dickens, Jillian Lips, Too Tall. Thank you so much for tuning in, Too Tall. To everybody, thank you guys so much for stopping by. We'll have a little chat with you guys when we get to the end of the stream. When we have our Q&A. Without further ado, we will get right into today's headline topics. Of course, it's day 147 of the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Russia today announced that they are expanding their war aims within the country. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. Starting off our primary headlines, Russian President Vladimir Putin won the endorsement of Iranian Supreme Leader for his Russia's invasion of Ukraine during a visit to Tehran on Tuesday, as we reported in last night's report. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, again, that's a really big, that's a mouthful there. Words are hard, especially foreign names sometimes, told Putin, quote, "War is a harsh and difficult issue, and Iran is not at all pleased that ordinary people suffer from it, but in the case of Ukraine, if you had not taken the initiative, the other side would have caused the war with its own initiative. If the road is open to NATO, it knows no boundaries. And if it was not stopped in Ukraine, they would start the same war sometime later under the pretext of Crimea." Again, those are from the words of the Iranian supreme leader in that statement that was made Tuesday. That leader also added that Tehran and Moscow need to stay vigilant against, quote, "Western deception," calling for long-term cooperation between Iran and Russia. Iran and Russia's long-term cooperation is greatly, deeply beneficial to both countries. We're still waiting to get some more information on if Iran will be supplying Russia with those combat-capable drone systems in the coming weeks, and I hope to have some more information on that for you in the coming days. Putin said progress had been made that may allow Russia to lift the blockade on Ukrainian wheat, as we had been reporting over the past few days. In a quote directly from Russian President Vladimir Putin, he says, "I want to thank you for your mediation efforts," he told Recep Erdogan, his Turkish counterpart, during a trip to Tehran in comments released by the Kremlin. So that's coming from the Russian government. Quote, "With your mediation, we have moved forward. Not all issues have been resolved, but the fact that there is movement is already good." Now, a lot of us had speculated earlier in the week. We had a poll on this, actually. It talked about, it basically asked our viewers, do you think that these negotiations would solve this food crisis, which is occurring in those Black Sea ports, or actually abroad in many different countries, but would it allow that grain to leave those ports, and would these negotiations be fruitful? The majority of you said they would not, and of course we haven't seen any evidence yet. There's a dramatic impact taking place from these negotiations. However, there has been some movement of that grain so far, but it's nowhere near where we need it to be, again, to help this global food crisis, which is ongoing. And in a report from earlier today, Ukraine does not want the war to last into winter because it would give Russian forces time to dig in and make any Ukrainian counteroffensive more difficult. President Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, said, quote, "It is very important for us not to enter the winter. After winter, when the Russians will have more time to dig in, it will be certainly more difficult for us to undertake a counteroffensive." Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president, said that peace in Ukraine would be on Moscow's terms. Medvedev, who is now deputy head of its Security Council, said, quote, "Russia will achieve all of its goals. There will be peace on our terms." Putin claimed Moscow has not seen any desire from Ukraine to fulfill the terms of which he described as a preliminary peace deal from March. Again, these are coming directly from the words of the Russian government here. In a U.S. press release earlier today, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said Russia was laying the groundwork for the annexation of more Ukrainian territory, installing illegitimate proxy officials in areas it controls. Kirby, unveiling what he said was U.S. intelligence, said Russia was seeking to establish the ruble as the default currency and force residents to apply for citizenship in these areas in occupied Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky says he expected significant results for Ukraine following his wife's trip to Washington on Tuesday. A quote from that report saying, "Increasing American support for Ukraine, additional assistance to protect people from Russian terror, addressing humanitarian needs are all the tasks of the ongoing visit of the First Lady of Ukraine to the United States," he said in that statement. Ukraine's First Lady, Alina Zelenska, met her U.S. counterpart, Jill Biden, on Tuesday ahead of her appearance on Wednesday before members of Congress. The governor of the southern Ukraine region of Mykolaiv has offered a $100 reward for anyone who can identify people collaborating with Russia. Vitaly Kim offered compensation in exchange for information about, quote, "those who reveal to the occupiers the places of deployment of Ukrainian troops or help them establish the coordinates of potential targets." So again, they're offering a cash reward for anyone that can identify people that are collaborating with Russian forces. Another 6 French-made Caesar artillery guns are, quote, on their way to Ukraine at this time. From a statement earlier today from France's foreign minister, who confirmed that 12 of the guns, prized for their accuracy and mobility, have already been delivered to Ukraine, and, quote, the 6 others are on their way. Again, Catherine Colonna told the State Commission. The United States will announce a new weapons package for Ukraine in the coming days, a government official said. It is expected to include mobile rocket launchers known as Highmars and various artillery munitions. That came from a report from Reuters earlier today. A special commission to control the use of weapons provided to Ukraine has been set up, according to Zelensky. Our partners are fully informed about how we use the weapons provided, but in order to put an end to any manipulations of Russian propagandists and those who help them in Ukraine or somewhere else, such an additional parliamentary control tool will enter into force, he said, again in a statement earlier today. So that about concludes our primary headlines for this evening. We're now going to hop over into our community aggregated news. Again, if you haven't already, hop over into our YouTube live chat. Make sure to cast your vote on that poll question that we are asking tonight. Again, do you think Russia's expanded war aims will be successful? And in just a moment, we will cover that poll results. But first, I have the first community aggregated post from this evening. Again, comes from yours truly. I'm going to get that up on screen here for you guys. Go over to our primary screen. We'll get over to our big screen so we can see everything a little better. Okay. Fallen Rays, I see you in the chat there. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always nice to see some of our mods tuning in to the live chats to rally support and make sure everything is kept under control. Fallen, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. All right, so here we have an article earlier today posted by the BBC. Talks about Russia's Lavrov says it's ready to expand their war aims. I'm going to read you a few paragraphs here from this article while we wait for the last of you to cast your votes in tonight's community poll. Russia's military focus in Ukraine is no longer only in the east of the country, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said. In an interview with Russian state media, he implied Moscow's strategy had changed after the West supplied Ukraine with longer-range weapons, again, directly referring to those HIMARS rocket systems. Russia would now have to push Ukrainian forces further from the front line to ensure its own security, he explained. The U.S. had earlier accused Russia of preparing to annex parts of Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine in February, claiming falsely that Russian speakers in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region had suffered a genocide and needed to be liberated. 5 months on, Russia has occupied parts of the east and south of the country, but it failed in its original aim of capturing Kiev and has since claimed its main objective was the liberation of the Donbass region. Since February, the West has supplied Ukraine with increasingly powerful weapons to use in its defense against Russian forces. Mr. Lavrov says that that has forced Russia to expand its objectives further. Quote from him directly, "We cannot allow the part of Ukraine controlled by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to possess weapons that would pose a direct threat to our territory," Mr. Lavrov said in the interview with Margarita Simyoyan, a well-known commentator on Russian TV and editor-in-chief of broadcast for RT. The geography is different now, he said, naming the southern Kherson and Zaporizhia regions as Russia's latest objectives. Moscow's forces already occupy parts of both regions, as we have talked about many times on the show over the past few weeks here. You can see a nice illustrative map here on screen of some of the current directions of advancement from these both the Russian and Ukrainian forces. You can see Ukrainian forces are advancing eastward here in the Kherson region. And then, of course, you can see the red arrows here, which show which directions the Russian forces are advancing in. So we'll go ahead now, and we'll end our community poll here in the YouTube live chat. Again, tonight's question was: do you think that Russia's expanded war aims will be successful? An overwhelming 62% of you said no, while 37% of you said yes. I'll go ahead and I will post those results in our Situation Room for anybody that would like to look at the results of tonight's community poll. Again, I kind of agree with the overwhelming 67% there, as over the recent weeks we've showed that their advancements in the territory in the east of the country have slowed down almost to a grinding halt. It remains to be seen if Russia will be able to continue to occupy further territory in the east, and of course if they look to expand out their invasion to more parts of the country, it remains to be seen if that will be successful. But I plan to bring you guys information and updates on that as they come out over the coming weeks and months ahead. Our first post this evening, I'm actually going to do it differently. Usually what I do is I start at the bottom and I work my way up. But tonight we're going to start at the top and work our way bottom. I think that might be a better option here. Our first post this evening comes from Carbon. Thank you, Carbon, for posting this in the Situation Room, longtime contributor. Russian forces kidnap around 400 people in Zaporizhia Oblast. Again, this is coming from Kiev Independent, a verified source on Twitter. Zaporizhia Oblast Governor Alexander Staruk said around 400 civilians, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant employees, and local administration officials are currently held hostage by Russian forces at this time. Again, thank you, Carbon, for posting that in the Situation Room. Next post here comes from Kayuka. Actually, we had a updated link to a verified account that Kayuka posted with this. Okay, so it comes from Lulia Mendel, verified Twitter source here. This is a picture coming from the Antovsky Bridge over the Dnieper region in Kherson region, which was struck by Ukrainian forces on July 19th. The bridge remains usable, but it's a key vulnerability for Russian forces. Control of the Dnieper crossing is likely to become a key in the outcome of fighting in the region. Again, that comes directly from the British Ministry of Defense, that report there. In fact, I believe we have our Ministry of Defense intelligence report to bring you guys here shortly. We actually had another part of that report here. I believe it's a video. We can go ahead and show you guys that now. Get that audio going.
Стреляет по Антоновскому мосту. Сегодня здесь появились.
Again, it's showing some of the damage to the bridge here.
Раз, вот там два, вот три.
However, it is reported to be still usable at this time. I guarantee we'll probably see more information on this bridge being struck in the coming days from Ukrainian forces. I would imagine that they definitely want to take this bridge out. It's of extreme strategic importance for them to do so. Stopping the Russian forces from being able to bring supplies and forces across that bridge to the West Bank is extremely important. Our next post here comes from Kayuka from Ukrainiform.net. Talks about the armed forces of Ukraine have already liberated from the occupiers almost half of the localities captured at the beginning of the invasion. Quote here saying, "We have already liberated more than 1,000 towns and villages captured by the enemy at the beginning. We need to liberate over 2,500 more," Minister of Defense of Ukraine Oleksiy Reznikov said during a discussion organized by the Atlantic Council. Again, this is reported by Ukrainiform. Thank you, Kayuka, for posting that in the Situation Room. Our next post here comes from Pyrotech. I believe it is in Russian here, if I'm not mistaken. But we have a translation of this, which I can get up on screen for you now. Again, here is the translated page here. It says, "The West will not accept peace in Ukraine in the form of ultimatums." Actually, okay, so the headline here is saying the Austrian foreign minister says, "We will not accept peace in the form of ultimatums from Russia, from the Russian Federation." It says here, "The West will not accept peace in Ukraine in the form of ultimatums from Russia," said Austrian Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg. Quote here saying, "We all want peace, and especially those who suffer in Ukraine, but I must honestly say that peace and a solution cannot be imposed. It must be a decision. It must be a decision that would be made by the people of Ukraine. We will not perceive peace in the form of ultimatums from Russia," Schellenberg said in a press conference in Kiev on Wednesday. Again, Pyrotech, big shout out to you. Thank you so much for posting that in the in the Situation Room. We actually have a pretty interesting post here coming from Kayuka that shows those blasts that hit that bridge, the Antonovsky Bridge near Kherson. At the moment, the bridge appears to be down to one usable lane. So this is more footage of that bridge. And there was a picture a second ago that I'm trying to bring up here that marks out, might be here on Pravada. We had a picture here. Here we go. This is it here. So this shows the impact sites on that bridge. Apparently it's down to one usable lane at this time. So they definitely reduced the bandwidth, the volume of traffic that they're able to bring across that bridge. However, I imagine the Ukrainian forces are probably planning to fully take out this bridge in the coming days and weeks. So we'll probably have more information on that for you in the coming days. This came earlier from Kayuka as well. This comes from, I believe, Ukrainian weapons tracker here. It says at least 2 Ukrainian Polish-made war-mate loitering munitions were used against Russian forces in Enohodar, Zaporizhia Oblast today. Both appeared to detonate properly, but the target is currently unknown. You can see pieces of those loitering munitions here in these images. And then from Special Kherson Cat here, explosions reported in the area of Zaporizhia nuclear plant in Energodar. So we're not sure if that is at the actual plant facility itself or if that's referring to those loitering munitions. I believe it is referring to those loitering munitions that were used earlier today. Next post here comes from Vanquish, mod and longtime contributor on the Discord server. Thank you so much, Vanquish, for sending this over. This comes from Radio Free Europe / Radio Liberty on YouTube. It shows Ukraine's big German howitzers roll into action against Russian forces. Let's take a look.
Дозволяє зробити 3 постріли за 10 секунд. Це її максимальна швидкострільність, це дуже швидко. Максимально ефективна дальність ураження залежить від типу боєприпаса, до 30 км. Ураження максимально ефективне. Якщо снаряд летить в ціль, то на місці, там де він прилетів, вже нічого не залишається. Живого, неживого, метал, плоть, немає різниці.
Командир гармати отримує завдання, отримує координати цілі, переводить гармату на потрібну точку для роботи, наводить автоматично гармату. Навідник знаходиться для того, щоб, якщо йде збій при наведенні, щоб це зробити, довернути чи підвернути, чи навестися. І 2 заряджаючих контролюють процес заряджання самого снаряда і заряджають модуль. На ній довелося вчитися 1,5 місяця. Щодня без вихідних.
Повний боєкомплект панцергаубіці, а це 60 снарядів, можна перезарядити всього за 12 хвилин. Вручну, за допомогою спеціального лотка. Для цього в екіпажі відразу 2 заряджаючих.
Швидкострільність раз, мінімальне застосування фізичної роботи екіпажа 2 і приведення до бою і відбій з бойової позиції. Оперативно. Хвилина привестися в роботу, хвилина відпрацювати ціль, хвилина піти.
So as you can see it there, those German howitzers are definitely being put to good use within Ukraine. Again, big shout out to Vanquish for posting that in the Situation Room. Our next post here comes from Carbon from Nexta, verified on Twitter. It says the United States announced the delivery of 4 more Highmars Mlrs systems to Ukraine as part of the next military aid package. So I can expect that Highmars o'clock will continue to be a thing around the clock in the coming weeks. Thank you, Carbon, for posting that in the Situation Room. Our next posts here come from Kayuka. I actually have a few from Kayuka here that just came in over the past hour. This comes from Ukrainska Pravda. Talks about Russian conduct an assault near Bakhmut. Battles are ongoing at this time, coming from that General Staff report. Russian troops are trying to create favorable conditions for establishing control over Bakhmut and the territory of Vulariska Power Station, where fighting is currently ongoing. The source on that was the General Staff report as of 1800 on the 20th of July. We have another report here coming from Kayuka. This comes from Flash, unverified on Twitter, but nonetheless we're going to show you here, so make sure to take that with a grain of salt whenever we see something unverified. In Moscow, the roof of an 8-story building on Leyinsky Prospect is on fire. According to preliminary data, the fire area is 1,000 square meters. This video is from local media. Again, we're unsure at this time if that was directly caused by a Ukrainian strike. But I hope to have more information with later reports. Our next post here comes from Rat Lady, aka Mother Saki on the live chats here. I'm going to get a translation here up on screen for you guys that we can read this off. Her little piece of context here says it's from one of the soldiers I follow. It's a report on the Donbass. So let me get a translation here on screen, or up so I can read it off to you. I mean, okay. So it says here a little bit of Donetsk. Seversk is not occupied. In Donetsk, the Rashists once again protested Highmars on themselves. In the suburbs of Horlivka, the armed forces of Ukraine mowed down the orcs a little during the day. They fled from the advanced positions. In Volgoladara district, +1 diminished. Again, that is that report, again, reportedly coming from the Donbass region from some Ukrainian soldiers that she follows. Thank you, Rat Lady, for posting that. Our last post tonight comes from Kayuka. Again, it's our daily Ministry of Defense report from the UK, from the UK Ministry of Defense here. I'll go ahead and read this off for you guys. Again, this is our update on Ukraine for the 20th of July, 2022, from Defense Intelligence of the UK. Russia continues to make minimal gains in its Donbass offensive, with Ukrainian forces holding the line. On the 19th of July, 2022, authorities in Russian-occupied Kherson reported that Antonovsky Bridge over the Dnieper River had been struck by Ukrainian forces. Social media posts showed apparent battle damage to the bridge's roadway, as we showed you earlier. It is highly likely that the bridge remains usable, but it is a key vulnerability for Russian forces. It is one of only 2 road crossing points over the Dnieper by which Russia can supply or withdraw its forces from the territory it is occupied west of the river. This area includes the city of Kherson, which is politically and symbolically important for Russia. The lower reaches of the Dnieper present a natural barrier, with the waterway typically around 1,000 meters wide. Control of the Dnieper crossings is likely to become a key factor in the outcome of fighting in the region in the coming weeks. Again, big shout out to everybody that posted in the Situation Room today on the Discord server. If you guys would like to go look at those posts, you can find them again in the Situation Room channel on our Discord server. We don't always get a chance to go through all of them, so there's a lot more there. If you guys want to get some more information about what's going on in Ukraine, some more updates and reports, best place to get those is by far in that Situation Room channel on our Discord server. It's discord.gg/Nemico. You can find a link to that in the description below. We're now going to switch over to our open source reporting here from our resource at liveuamap.com. I'm going to scroll down to the 12-hour mark here. We're going to start here to get everybody caught up on the individual reports of what's going on in Ukraine over about the past 12 hours. So 12 hours ago, it says here, Russian army shelled Kostyevnivka. You can see where that is located here on Ukrainian-occupied territory. There is a video here coming from Twitter. We could take a look at that here. You can see some smoke rising from where that shelling reportedly occurred. We're seeing multiple angles of this shelling that occurred there today. $11 ago here, it says the U.S. will send 4 more Highmars to Ukraine, announces the Secretary of Defense of the United States, as I reported on a few moments ago. Explosions in Enerhodar near Zaporizhia, as I also reported on a few moments ago. We have that video that I showed you a short while ago of that smoke rising in the region. Again, it's unknown if that was directly near or targeting the nuclear plant, or what forces were targeted in that strike. Hopefully we'll have some more information on that for you at a later time. 6 hours ago, the U.S. has trained 200 Ukrainian troops on Highmars multiple launch rocket systems, says the General Mark Milley. Weapons are shipped from the U.S. within 48 hours of Biden's decision and on the front lines after 2 weeks of training. So a pretty quick mobilization there of those Highmars systems and the training that goes into, again, making sure that those personnel can operate those Highmars systems. 6 hours ago here, it says the U.S. is closely watching Ukraine's expenditure of Highmars munition, which is a greater concern than the number of launchers, says General Mark Milley. 5 hours ago, shots and explosions reported near Skavadosk in Kherson region. You can see where that was located here on Russian territory. Keep that in mind. It's most likely a Ukrainian strike that occurred there today. 4 hours ago, explosions at ammunition warehouses in Skavadosk. Again, also on the map located here. Most likely the context here for that that other report. Let's see if we have any information here. I'll take a look at this real quick. We might have... Yeah, so we don't actually have anything else to show there besides the text report at this time. You can see, though, on the map where those strikes are located. These strikes most likely were located at the same area. They just showed up slightly different on the map here. But you can see here it is on Russian-held territory. 4 hours ago, so exactly 4 hours before this report aired, Kherson Air Defense responding to a possible missile attack with some missile hits. So again, multiple missiles fired on the city of Kherson. You can see where that's located here on the map. So that's on Russian territory. So it's possible, again, that that was a Ukrainian attack on Russian forces in that occupied area. 4 hours ago, Joseph Borrell, EU member states, agreed to mobilize 5th tranche of military assistance of £500 million to further support Ukraine's armed forces. EU remains focused and steadfast in its support for Ukraine together with partners. 3 hours ago, we have explosions reported in Melitopol. You can see where those are located here, again on Russian-held territory. Possibly the Highmars at work, again, as it's pretty far into Russian-held territory here. However, I don't have any further information to give at this time. Explosions reported here in Kharkiv region 3 hours ago. You can see where that is located on the map. A lot of these clusters you see here came from our reports from the Ukraine Armed Forces. Again, those show strikes and shelling that has been reported over the past 24 hours. Finishing off our open source reports here, it says 2 hours ago, CIA director says the total Russian death toll in Ukraine war is estimated at around 15,000. And the number of injuries is 3 times higher than that 15,000 number. So again, the CIA of the United States, the CIA director is saying that their current estimate, their current intelligence assessment, is that Russia's death toll is around 15,000 servicemen killed in the invasion so far. We're now going to switch over to a little bit of a Q&A to end off the show from our live chat. If you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention. Share this stream if you like it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and sound off in chat, not only where you're tuning in from tonight, what the weather's looking like, what fuel prices are looking like in your area, but more importantly, if you have any questions about current events in Ukraine and even abroad, or any questions or comments please let me know in the chat, and we will go through those and read them off, not only from the YouTube live chat, but also from the Twitch chat as well as the Discord chat as well. Too Tall says, never forget P47. Indeed. Thank you so much, Too Tall, for tuning in tonight. It's glad to see you, man, and thank you so much for stopping by and taking some time out of your day to be here with us. And indeed, never forget P47. Definitely, probably one of the most intense portions of the early invasion for us here on the stream. Tango Down, thank you so much for stopping by as well. I see you there in chat. Uktin at Scylla says, I think it is dangerous to spoon-feed the Russians exposure to more advanced combat systems. And that's been an argument from many intel analysts over recent weeks, is that it could be dangerous to spoon-feed the Russians exposure to a lot of these more advanced weapon systems, as they can figure out countermeasures, and in the possibility of a broader conflict occurring here in Europe, the Russians might be able to gain an upper hand against some of these weapon systems. Again, that's always a possibility, and we have to stay vigilant against such threats. Unstinkable says, Nemico Network, I sent you a few links as well. I'll have to take a look for those. Again, sometimes those get buried, especially when they're sent over in PMs. Actually, he has one here. This is also from tonight, it seems, he says. We'll take a look at this. This is Highmars in action in Skavadosk. Let's take a look at this report. This comes from Reddit. So this to me looks like it is a ammunition depot that is struck. One tall tale sign of an ammunition depot being struck is when that ammo and everything starts to cook off, it hurls. It looks like a big fireworks show, like what you're seeing here with all this material being flung off of it, and you could see secondary explosions happening as well. So it's very possible that this could have been a ammo cache, weapons cache, possibly, that was struck here in Skavadosk. Thank you, Unstinkable, for sending this over. This next clip also comes from Unstinkable here. This is better footage of a tank being hit by a javelin. He says here, insane footage of a javelin with an amazing arch. Oh, wow, you can actually see the arch. Yeah, in fact, I think there's one of the videos that you can clearly see that arch of that javelin being fired. So you can see, so off to the left side of the screen here, you have your Ukrainian forces hidden in the bushes somewhere with their javelin missile system. And you can see when it fires, it goes right up over the tree line and lands directly on top of the tank. Let's take a look. See, they're completely destroying that tank almost instantaneously. And see here, another thing to reiterate the ammo cook-off. Okay, so when the munitions in that tank cook off, you can see that same effect. You see like kind of some secondary explosions and sparks being flung everywhere. That's usually indicative of an ammo cook-off occurring. Again, I'm not a military munitions expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've seen enough of these videos to kind of receive that pattern of when this munitions cook off. You see that display of sparks and kind of embers flying around. Again, that directly caused from, again, those munitions cooking off. You can see the other Russian tank flooring it to get out of the area, as his comrade was surely destroyed by that Ukrainian-launched Javelin missile. Ukin Atsilis says, I'm in favor of a bold approach and the element of surprise. I think most Ukrainians would probably agree with you. Rocket Man, thank you so much for tuning in tonight from Idaho. It says 98 degrees in Idaho. That sounds pretty rough there, Rocket Man. I hope you're staying cool and indoors. As Anna says, and this is actually a pretty smart comment here, saying CIA is not on the ground though. Numbers flaw when you're not on the ground. I'm sure the CIA has some intelligence assets on the ground in Ukraine. It's possible they even have some intelligence assets on the ground in Russian-occupied territory. I would not put that past them. However, you are correct. I think the only ones that know what the casualty counts are for the Russians are the Russians. Okay, they're the only ones that are able to accurately assess what their losses, what their combat losses are looking like at this time. However, it is, I mean, there are ways to make estimates, and pretty accurate estimates, I should say. I would say that the CIA estimate is a little bit more reasonable than some of the other estimates I've seen coming from Western analysts. But nonetheless, you are correct. And again, I reiterate that the probably the only people that know what those combat losses look like are the Russians themselves. Unstickable says the countermeasures they have come up with have turned out to be useless. Yes, we've seen a few examples of that. One of the main examples I used earlier in the war was the cope cages, as we called them, that were installed on top of tanks to help mitigate those Javelin anti-tank guided munitions. Those did not work out so well. Doom Pie, thank you so much for tuning in. It's pretty hot in the Netherlands. Luckily, the temperatures will go down a little for a few days. That's good. I heard the UK had some record-breaking heat yesterday. To everybody in the UK, I hope you guys are doing okay and cooling off a little bit as those cooler temperatures move into the United Kingdom. Unstickable says in the chat, oh, it's definitely a depot cooking off in reference to that video I showed you a few moments ago. Yeah, it definitely looked like a Russian ammo depot being hit. Mother Saki says, we got a break today. Only 109 in Surprise, Arizona. Mother Saki, I hope you're staying inside in air conditioning. Nobody should have to deal with 109-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. That is absolutely stifling. And I hope everybody is doing okay down there in Surprise, Arizona. The dude asks, and I saw Unstickable ask this as well, can you full screen that Javelin? I can attempt to, but how when I do that, sometimes the video gets a little skewed. But we'll switch over here to our. Let's go. There we go. This is about the closest I can get you guys here, and it's going to be a little bit cut off. But you can see that Javelin come right over and instantly destroys that tank there, cooking off those munitions. You can see it again here on screen. Boom. You can see it lobbed right over. Very effective weapon system against these Russian armored vehicles. I hope that satisfies your view there and your want to see that Javelin take out that Russian tank there, guys. Again, thank you so much for sounding off in the chat. And thank you to Unstable for sending that over. Just Me asks, what was the real outcome to Putin going to Iran? Well, that's arguable. Again, they had many talks there. He was really looking to just basically solidify Iranian-Russian relations, and I think that was successful for Putin. However, there was also intelligence that had come out saying that they are looking to secure those combat armed drones from Iran. That possibly could be a motive for the meetings there. And then, of course, there was some talks between the Turkish president and Russian President Vladimir Putin as well at those meetings. Unstickable says, yeah, we have had 100+ degrees in the Netherlands for the last 2 days. Seems to be going into the 90s for a few now. Well, that's a little bit better than 100s, but still 90 is pretty toasty there, Unstickable. I hope you guys are staying cool. Just Me reporting in on fuel prices, saying about $4.65 for gas, where he's tuning in from, $5.99 for diesel. Still, that's still pretty high in the fuel prices. I'd like to see those come down more. Again, I've talked about this a few times. I feel like we're in kind of an adjustment period right now with those fuel prices. We might see them spike up later in the summer, so stay vigilant, everybody. Katlenberg says, by the way, the stocks of anti-tank systems are down 25%, and Stinger's 33% for us extra stockpiles, so have plenty to go. Go ahead and switch back to our newsroom here so we can take a look at the live chats here. Speedy Squirrel, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Glad to see you, as always. Unstickable says copium. Yes, those cope cages were definitely copium. Doompie says, yes, 102 degrees yesterday in the garden. That sounds pretty rough. Doompie, I hope you're doing well down there. Too Tall says, gas prices have dropped somewhat, but the record drought and heat here will not relent. Yes, I feel like a lot of places here are dealing with heat and drought and wildfires over the past week. It's been a big topic here. Mother Saki says, I linked you an Iskander failure video. I'll take a look at that. Possibly we'll show that on tomorrow's report. Thank you so much for sending that over. Marcus Whitley, thank you so much for tuning in from North Carolina. Says 110 heat index tomorrow in North Carolina. That sounds rough. I hope everybody stays cool down there, Marcus, and I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Speedy Squirrel says humidity came back for us at 100%, 93F at 4 a.m. Feels like 108F. Well, Speedy Squirrel, I hope you get a chance to cool off today at some point. That sounds pretty rough. Rocketman says Maxar Tech is providing images and intel is passed via Starlink real time. I've heard some rumors about that as well. I know Maxar, those images from Maxar have not only been extremely valuable for intelligence analysts in Ukraine and in Europe, but it's been just as useful for private intel, open source intel, like what we're doing here. Having those Maxar images is an excellent resource to be able to show you guys, hey, this is proof of this or this happening, because here there are the Maxar images, over a course of days. We can show you high resolution images of, combat equipment moving into position, etc. They were very useful during the opening weeks of the war when we were watching those Russian forces congregate on the borders and then move across the borders into Ukraine. Faraz Khan says, I think gas prices have decreased a bit. Yeah, I think that's kind of the common assumption here. We're kind of in like an adjustment period. I think gas prices are kind of coming back down. I speculate that they will rise back up later in the year. Again, it remains to be seen. I hope they continue to trend downward for the sake of everybody, not just here in the States, but everybody in Europe, especially. A lot of you guys are dealing with prices that are twice as much as what we're dealing with here in the United States. So, Doompie coming in clutch with tonight's weather forecast. Kiev 0400, 14 degrees centigrade, mostly cloudy. Northwest winds 12 kilometers an hour. Sunrise 0509, sunset 2059. Doompie, thank you so much for, as always, posting those weather forecasts in the live chat. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, Doompie, as always. I think that about ends off our, actually, one more thing here. Too Tall says, what format do you need a fishbowl with a Russian flagship in it again for your desk? Too Tall, if you want to send one over, PNG will work. I could probably fit that in there. That's awesome. I actually haven't thought about that, but that would be a great addition to the desk next to our St. Dasha cup and our Javelin anti-tank guided munition system. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for stopping by tonight, taking some time out of your day to get filled in on what's going on in Ukraine. As I always say, I like to reiterate this. It's very important that we stay informed on what's going on over there, not just for the people that live in Europe or live in Ukraine, but for us here in the United States. We're the ones that are watching this, the ones that are watching these reports. You guys, it's up to you to then contact your state elected officials, your politicians, put the pressure on them so they know that they need to continue to provide support for Ukraine. If not, this war will eventually, it might come directly to us, okay? And that's what we want to avoid, all right, is the spillover of this conflict here. And the way to do that is to continue to put the pressure on the Russian forces and make sure that Ukraine has everything that they need. New reports every weekday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's about 3 a.m. Ukraine time, for those that don't know. Best way to get updated on that is to make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Keep an eye on the announcement channel and the Discord server over on our community page on the YouTube channel. That's the best place to find out when we're going to be going live if we announce it ahead of time. Sometimes we don't. However, we do usually put the stream up about a half an hour to 45 minutes ahead of time before we actually go live, so that people can get those notifications and make sure to be here for the reports. If you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Best way to get notified when new streams and videos go live here on the channel. If you're on Twitch, you can hit that follow button, of course. If you like this content and you think it'd be valuable for more people to have this information, make sure to share this stream with your friends and family. Best way to get this information out into the hands of more people and keep people informed. If you haven't already, guys, again, hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button. Best way to get notified when new videos and streams go live. It's also the only way to get access to the YouTube live chat. Keeps things nice and civil over there. If you're looking for any links to anything at all, you can find it in our description box below the video or below the stream, depending on how you're watching this, as we do upload the streams. We do upload these reports every night after they're done live to our YouTube channel in video form for those that would like to rewatch them or for those that miss them. I know not everybody can tune in at this time. There's some people in different time zones, so I do like to have those uploaded so that everybody else can watch them and even join in on the discussion in the comment section below. If you can't find something in our description, you can always find it over on our Discord server at discord.gg/Nemico. Until next time, everybody, you've been watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
Let me